is another really, I think breast cancer in particular is a really good example of where within women, there's a lot of, because of the risk factors, women who haven't had children, women who have had children, women who are on hormone replacement therapy and so on. Those subgroups, I think the answer to your question is, it gets down to these subgroups. And what is it that these subgroups bring that really influence the development and progression of a specific type of cancer? So I would probably reorient that to that. With regards to what Mr. Hubbard was saying, one shining light I will say in this state with regards to Native Americans is that the Tohono O'odham Nation is one of 3 nations in the country, of the hundreds of nations in this country, sovereign nations, one of 3 nations that has a comprehensive cancer plan. And that's because of the Centers for Disease Control grant. But just to give you an idea of that disparity in terms of identifying the focus, identifying the priority in a very underserved population or underrepresented population, I think that's a shining light, and some potential progress can and will be made in that nation. We already know Kendra, Victor, myself have been very active in that effort, and I think you're going to be seeing some real interesting movement. And just as the Navajo have made a lot of progress, particularly because of earworm. So.
I think there actually is a specific reason why we are concerned about particular groups, and I think that I'm going to have, whether it's Dr. Bergsagel or Dr. Kyle, talk about the higher incidence of myeloma among African Americans. So I think that becomes a different story.
Well, you said it. In fact, if you look at all the cancers that affect African Americans, myeloma actually is the #1 in terms of racial discrepancy. So it's about 2-fold higher. And then again, actually, it's lower in Asians, and it's lower actually in Native Indians, and Caucasians are in the middle.
I'll stand up. I just wanted to add something else to what Mr. Hubbard said too, as it relates to the age differential. In the African American community, African American men, by and large, don't live long enough to draw Social Security. And as a result of that, when we're dealing with African American men, we're trying to get them to ask about their history. Is it a history of prostate cancer in your family, et cetera, et cetera. There's a cutoff there. They can't go back. We can't go back very far. There aren't many 70, 80, 90-year-old African American men walking around. So you can't, and since there's little or no discussion about prostate cancer in the minority communities anyway, we're really up against a problem. So the question on our applications, when people are filling out, when we're doing our screening, and Patty Jensen is here from Banner, we partnered with them to do screening, and we have another one coming up September the 25th with Banner. And these are some of the problems that we have, because no one can go back and say, well, Uncle so-and-so had, or my dad had it, because they're not there. And when I was diagnosed in 2001, most of my family tree is in Portland, Oregon, so I just happened to call my aunt to tell her that I had been diagnosed. She said, well, your uncle had prostate cancer in 1975. No discussion about that at all. From 1975 until 2001, we had no discussion in our family about that. So after I finished the conversation with my aunt, I immediately got on the phone, called my son, nephews, nieces, and everybody, nieces and everybody, because there's cancer in our family. So you have to circle the wagons and start doing things. The old school thinking was that if it's just prostate cancer, that's not a problem. You have cancer in your family now. Doesn't matter anymore. Breast cancer, men get breast cancer. There are very few gender-specific cancers. So if you have cancer in your family, you circle the wagons. You want everybody to know so that they can start developing a good, healthy lifestyle. And that's what it's all about, that information. And it really breaks down what Mr. Hubbard is talking about, because there's nobody there to say, well, Uncle John and so-and-so have had this and this and this. So it makes our work a little more say, find out what's in that family tree that we need to know about, so that we can make our job a lot easier, and we can start. I mean, I'm pushing for clinical trials. Any way that we can help, please let us know. Victor, Jesse, you know, you guys can come on the air anytime and talk about clinical trials, because that's something that we haven't really discussed just briefly, but we need to devote a whole hour one day just on clinical trials so people can start understanding what it's about. And our show, fortunately enough, covers all ethnic groups because it's on 10:10 a.m. is a faith-based organization. I mean, faith-based station. So all ethnic groups listen to that by a lot, not all of them, but a majority of them. So we hit a lot of people, and if we can get the word out, but we do need to do a 1-hour clinical trial show just on that.
I know we're getting close to the end of the segment for our round table. We haven't covered every topic, but one of the things I would like to do is just kind of go around the room and have people introduce themselves. And the reason I'm doing that is because I think what we are having happen here is a microcosm of what I hope can happen other places, other times. Because the more we talk to each other and talk to someone else and keep talking, I think that it's really going to begin to move this forward, because the lack of understanding and information in every group, because you're hearing it, it's not just a particular population. I'm just going to kind of give a plug for something that AZMN has been involved with called Tissue Donor Awareness Program. We did our first Tissue Donor Awareness Program through the state of Arizona. Kendra Sable gave us our first grant, and that was a program that was open to all people, all cancers, to tell people about what is a clinical trial. Very basic. And we did 3 programs. We did it in Prescott, Tucson, and Phoenix. And we had people coming out saying, I don't even know what a clinical trial was. I mean, I thought that was when they, kind of cut you up and took pieces of you. Or the other thing that I kept getting was phone calls, people saying, I'll be glad to donate my body to clinical research. And I'm saying, I don't want your body, please, But again, I mean, and I, 3 years ago, the first time I got involved with clinical trials, I didn't know. Now, I've lived with Jack Kavanaugh, who's had myeloma for 19 years, knock wood or whatever. But the fact is, until I got involved with creating this program, I really didn't understand it either. And again, back to your saying educated, intelligent people, so what? We don't really, most of us know very much more about it. But the reality is, by us having access to people like yourselves who are educated and informed, we obviously have an advantage. And so I just kind of wanted to go around because I think it's really interesting for you to know who's sitting here and for them to know you as well, because we're going to be going next door to, have some more fun and food. So we've already met him.
I'm Michelle from Fort Defiance.
Hi, I'm Jim Hornaday with Hornaday Development. My father and I built the Mayo Clinic Collaborative Research Building where doctors Bergsagel and Stewart work.
Excuse me, he's on our board.
Oh, and a board member. Yeah.
I'm Coach Johnston. I work for Millennium Pharmaceuticals.
Hi, I'm Brenda Hosley, and I kind of have 2 hats. I'm a clinical associate professor at Arizona State University, and in the summertime I work with Dene College in their summer research enhancement program.
Hi, I'm Kathy Wiley, and I'm a volunteer, and I wanted to mention that I was part of a clinical trial at Mayo Clinic because I was diagnosed with melanoma, and my father died of melanoma, so they were very interested in our